Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, well, I'm going to be honest with you, I am back to reiterate a point I made a couple of weeks ago, but I think I did not explain it well enough, and we have new information, which as far as I'm concerned, proves me pretty gosh darn right. So, VMAXs. Yeah, they really are gone. We are not getting any more VMAXs. And I brought you this news a little while ago, and a bunch of you have called me on it, and you've gone, Wassy, I think you're wrong. I think VMAXs aren't gone forever. Let me explain why. And here's the thing, right? Even if you guys, it was about a month ago I made that video, even if you guys disagree with me, I love that most of you, most of the time, what you do is you lay it out. I got some wonderful comments from you guys, really explaining your position on why you think VMAXs aren't gone. I disagree, but I do love that you all spent the time and effort to come along and explain it to me. You guys are absolutely awesome. So, why are VMAXs gone forever? Well, we're heading into Brilliant Stars, and Brilliant Stars doesn't really have any VMAXs in, which of course is a pretty dumb statement to make, given that we know that Brilliant Stars has 3 VMAXs in. Here's the thing though, our version of Brilliant Stars, that is our set. Well, that is our version, essentially, of Starburst. The Japanese set is Starburst, that is Sword and Shield 9, and that is coming over here as Brilliant Stars. It is the set which brings in the Pokémon V-Star, like Arceus and Charizard, and it is the start of year 3 of Sword and Shield in the Pokémon TCG. We'll come back to that in a minute, because splitting them into years is actually a pretty important thing to do. So we're changing things around a little bit, we're bringing in V-Star. The thing is, although Brilliant Stars is our equivalent of Starburst, and you can see, look at the English pack with Arceus next to the Japanese pack, look at the names, they're bringing in V-Star, we're bringing in V-Star, this is our version of their set. The thing is, we tend to have one main set every 3 years. Japan tends to do things a little bit differently. So, in between Japan getting Fusion Arts, which we brought over as Fusion Strike, and Japan getting Starburst, which we're bringing over as Brilliant Stars, Japan also got VMAX Climax, and they got the 100 start decks. And these are extra things which we're not getting. So we need to get those cards. So essentially what happens is that those cards end up in Brilliant Stars for us. But they are before Starburst, and even though they're in Brilliant Stars, they're really before Brilliant Stars. If we see Starburst as the start of year 3 of the Sword and Shield TCG in Japan, and Brilliant Stars as the start of year 3 of the Sword and Shield TCG outside of Japan, in Europe, North America, etc., we end up with this weird situation where VMAX Climax and the 100 start decks, which really are the end of year 2, end up in our set which begins year 3, and that complicates things. Because we know that there are 3 VMAXs in Brilliant Stars. We know this for a fact, it has been announced. We know that we are getting Mimikyu VMAX, that is official, that has been officially confirmed in the press release. But Mimikyu VMAX is from VMAX Climax. And the reason we're getting it in Brilliant Stars is because there isn't really anywhere else to put it. It doesn't really fit anywhere else. So it shouldn't really be in Brilliant Stars, but it ends up in Brilliant Stars because we don't know what else to do with it. Similarly, in the 100 start decks, we got Aggron VMAX, and we got Kingler VMAX, and again, these have been officially announced and confirmed as coming in Brilliant Stars. We know that for a fact. But they're not from Starburst, they are from the 100 start decks. So follow this one through with me. We know that there are 3 VMAXs coming in Brilliant Stars. We know that 2 of them are from the 100 start decks, and we know that 1 of them is from VMAX Climax. We also know, and again this is a fact, that Brilliant Stars is our equivalent of Starburst. And when you put all of that together, what do you get? There are no VMAXs in Starburst. Because if there were VMAXs in Starburst, they would be in Brilliant Stars. But we know for a fact that there are only 3 VMAXs in Brilliant Stars, and we know that they're not from Starburst because we know where they're from. So we now, again, although this hasn't actually been announced, we haven't seen the set list for Starburst, we can say with absolute certainty that there are no new VMAXs in Starburst. Because otherwise, the only other explanation is there are new VMAXs in Starburst, but they're not coming out in our Brilliant Stars. We're just getting 3 random ones, and 3 is a super awkward number. That doesn't make any sense. What we are getting in Starburst, and therefore in Brilliant Stars, is Pokemon V-Star. And this isn't really part of my argument. This was in the previous video, but I said it at the time and I stand by it now. Having a 2-prize V-Star with a V-Star power that evolves from a Pokemon V, alongside a 3-star VMAX that doesn't have any extra rule other than the fact that it gives up free prizes, having those 2 things coexisting at the same time in the same sets, it doesn't make any sense. And I know it is technically happening in Brilliant Stars, but as I've explained, that is because we are mopping up from Japanese mini-sets rather than actually properly bringing in new stuff. Now, if we split the Pokemon TCG into years of Sword and Shield, we get year 1, which is your Sword and Shield base set. We then have Rebel Clash, Darkness Ablaze, and Vivid Voltage. That is year 1 of the Pokemon TCG Sword and Shield. Year 2, we start off with Battle Styles. We then get Chilling Reign, Evolving Skies, and Fusion Strike. And then that ends year 2. So Fusion Strike comes in as the tail end of, the end of year 2 of the Sword and Shield TCG. Now, what some people have explained to me, and I thank you very much for this, because you've given me really long explanations, and you really thought it out, and I really appreciate that. What you've essentially said to me is, Wassy, we are getting VMAXs in Brilliant Stars, which is the start of year 3, which means Pokemon VMAX are a year 3 thing, and we should expect them in all 4 of the year 3 sets. That is our February set Brilliant Stars, as well as our currently unnamed May, August, and November sets. And although that makes sense and seems true, I need to go back to what I've just spent the last few minutes explaining. We're not really getting VMAXs in Brilliant Stars. Brilliant Stars is mopping up from some Japanese mini-sets that we didn't really know what else to do with. It doesn't really count. Now, if we go and look at the Japanese releases, it's way easier. Year 2 of the Sword and Shield TCG finished in Japan with VMAX Climax and the 100 start decks, which incidentally did have VMAXs in. But year 3 of the Sword and Shield TCG in Japan starts with Starburst, and as I've explained, although we've not had an announcement, we can say with a very high degree of certainty, there are no new VMAXs in Starburst. We're not getting VMAXs in Starburst, because if we were, they'd be in Brilliant Stars, and we know for a fact that they're not. Therefore, if we want to split it into years, which is a sensible thing to do, unfortunately, that actually just proves that we're not getting any new VMAXs. Because if we go by Japan, and because Japan has mini-sets, etc., Japan tends to have things a lot cleaner than we do, then it actually works perfectly that VMAXs go away at the end of year 2. Because we have to catch up on Japanese mini-sets, it does get a little bit awkward. And that essentially is why we're not getting any new VMAXs. We had them in the first 2 years of the Sword and Shield TCG. They went away. And there's nothing to suggest they're coming back. Now, I don't think it makes sense to have V-Star and VMAX around at the same point, but that's not actually my argument in this particular video. In this video, we are looking at things we know, and we are making very sensible predictions based on things we actually know. We can look at what we know and say with a high degree of certainty there's no VMAXs in Starburst, and there's no reason they'd stop them in Starburst and bring them back in the following set. That really doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Now, one thing that has put a little bit of a fly in the ointment is the existence of that Pikachu VMAX I showed you the other day. That is the one which is coming as a Korokoro promo. It's a magazine promo. And that made me into a liar, because I told you Aggron was the last VMAX we were ever going to have, and when I said it, I meant it, incidentally. But Pikachu came out and actually went, no mate, I'm going to be the last one. I don't know where we're getting Pikachu. We know it's not in Brilliant Stars. It is a new VMAX. It is mechanically unique. It is not the same as the one in Vivid Voltage. So we do have to get it at some point. And this is the one thing that's causing me a little bit of sadness, because it doesn't really make much sense. But I also feel, honestly, I feel pretty good about the fact that we'll get it as some promo at some point. Sure, it's a little bit awkward because it messes things up, but it doesn't actually change anything I've said in this video. It doesn't change the fact that year 3 of the Sword and Shield is starting without VMAXs. It doesn't change the fact that there's none in Starburst, that there aren't any new ones in Brilliant Stars. It doesn't change the fact that V-Star and VMAX really do not seem designed to coexist side by side. And I feel 100% positive VMAXs are gone. Now, obviously, if they reveal a new VMAX which is coming in a future set, not a random one-off promo like Pikachu, then in that video I will happily just take the L, tell you I'm wrong, and admit that I got things wrong. But I'm looking at what we actually know here and the way the TCG runs, and I don't really see any sensible counter-argument for VMAXs actually staying. I do believe very strongly they're going away. Yes, we're getting some random promo Pikachu at the end, which doesn't really make much sense to me, but it's too early to do a Pikachu V-Star promo. They clearly wanted to do a big splashy promo, ergo the only thing they could really do was go ahead and put it as a VMAX. That's what I think. I want to know what you think about all of this, ladies and gentlemen. If you were skeptical, I want to know if I have persuaded you. If I've not, tell me your argument for why VMAXs are staying in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.